Alright guys, I'm going to do some videos on IELTS speaking. I'm going to go through part 1, part 2 and part 3, and I'm going to apply everything that I've taught you. I've given you a lot of notes, but I want to really show you how to apply what I've mentioned. I want to go through the band descriptors and look at the various criteria that you need to take note of. So let's just get into some of the band descriptors here. You have fluency and coherence. I'm going to focus on band 7, so because most of you guys need band 7. So what you need to work on is the for fluency, you have to speak a lot. You have to speak I wouldn't say quickly, but not slowly. All right, not too slow, and not too many hesitations. And this is one area that you guys should work on if you don't have many days to the exam. All right, just work on your fluency, because and how do you work on your fluency? You just speak over and over again, and you will get faster in a sense. Repeat the question. Don't just answer one question. Don't just answer it once, but try to answer that question again the second and third time, and you will definitely speak faster. All right. Lexical resource is vocabulary. Lexical resource and grammatical range and accuracy, those two areas are pretty much the same as what you see in writing, except for lexical resource here, it talks about idiomatic vocabulary, something which is slightly more informal that you don't really use in your writing. Okay, but everything else, if you less common, you need to use less common vocabulary. You need to take note of your collocations. These are the things that you also see in your writing band descriptors. And grammar, two main points: use complex structures, use conjunctions, etc., and do not produce a lot of errors. I think this is one area where students really score lowly in, because they produce a lot of errors, because after all, this is speaking, this is not writing. In writing you have time to think, but in speaking you don't have time to think, and therefore errors will abound for many students. And that is something you need to be careful, because you won't get your 7 if you made too many grammatical errors. Pronunciation, just make sure what you say is clear. You don't have to take on any specific accent or anything like that. As long as it's clear, the examiner doesn't really care what kind of accent you have. All right. So I'm going to so basically I can't really work on your pronunciation, but I'm going to, as I go through all these different questions, you will see how I try to work on the lexical resource and the vocabulary and then grammar, and sometimes the coherence too. Fluency is just, you have to the method I've taught you is always prepare for various questions, and then speak it out, and then repeat the answer to the question over and over again. All right. This is for part 1, part 2, part 3. You have to prepare, and that's why in this video I'm going to prepare with you. Preparing starts with writing it out, not just speaking, because when you write out, you are able to pause and think, what can I say, what should I what should I write, can I add an idiom here and there, can I add less common words, etc., etc., do I have any mistakes? So these are things you can do when you write. Okay, when you speak, you tend to be spontaneous and you tend to speak straight. Whatever comes out of your mouth, you just, whatever you're thinking of, it just comes out of your mouth, and therefore it's a process that doesn't really give you the opportunity to really prepare much. Okay, well, so I always tell you, start through preparing and writing, especially if you have time. Of course, if you don't have time, if your IELTS exams tomorrow, then you don't have much time, then just go through very quickly and just practice through speaking. But writing is really what's going to help you in terms of even the coherence, the vocabulary and the grammar. Okay. All right, let's go to speaking part 1. and let's just answer these questions together. Okay, these are just some questions. Remember, in speaking part 1, there'll be about 2 or 3 topics, and the first topic is most likely going to be one of these 3 topics. Okay, so they ask you, do you work or are you a student? They may ask you something about hometown. They may ask you something about your accommodation, or in terms of not so much, well, not, it could be accommodation, it could be where you live. Okay, when they ask where do you live, you could mention the place, the area you live in. You can mention where you could also talk about, the place, like a condo, in an apartment, a HDB flat, etc. Okay, so it's pretty flexible. Now, okay, let's go to work or study. Okay, so do you work or are you a student? So remember, this is what I want you to do. I want you to prepare through writing it out. Okay, because through writing, as I mentioned before, you can actually take note of your grammar, add some vocabulary, etc., etc. And you have more time to think, and you can really structure your answer better. All right, so okay, you could say something like, well, I'm working. Do you work? I say, well, I'm working. I'm a nurse at Singapore General Hospital. I've been working there for about 5 years. Okay, so remember how many sentences should you respond with? You should respond with about 2 or 3 at least sentences. At least you could carry on, but as long as it's related to the question. So this is about 2 or 3 sentences. That's enough. You could carry on by saying, talk about your position. I'm not sure exactly what kind of positions there are in the hospital if you are a nurse, but this is a good, generally, it's a good answer. It's a fine answer. And just some things to take note here. You want to take note of the fact that at least this answer, you use the present continuous. Present. You use the present continuous in terms of I'm working, but I want you to focus here on the present perfect continuous tense. Okay, I've been working. So it's not, a lot of students will say I'm working here, I'm working there, but no, it's not I'm working. If you say I'm working here, I'm working in a hospital, that's fine. But when you add the time period, and the time period is 5 years, what does 5 years mean? It means you started 5 years ago until now. The whole length of the period of your work in this hospital is 5 years, and therefore you are referring to the fact that you started work 5 years ago and you worked until right now you're still working. So that is what you're trying to say. Okay, and you need to know what tense you ought to use, and the tense that you ought to use is the present continuous tense, and therefore, not the present continuous, the present perfect, continuous tense, or the present perfect simple tense also. There's a slight difference there, but you don't use the present continuous, you use the present perfect continuous or the present perfect simple. Okay, but it's the present perfect. So I have been working. Okay, just take note of the tense. It's a pretty good tense in that not many people know how to use the present perfect tense properly. All right, so the examiner may take note of that. So okay, let's go to the next question and let's answer it. What do you like about your work or your studies? Case, since this person works, so we'll answer it based on that, and based on what we just said, this person is a nurse. So let me write I'll write a long response, and I'll go through certain things I want you to take note of. You don't have to speak so long, okay? But you could say, okay, now one mistake students make is they say I like that. Okay, it's not very good to say I like that. If you want to use a clause after that. I like that I have many good colleagues, or something like that. No, don't use I like that. You could say I like the fact that, okay, all right, let's do it this way. Let's talk about something else. I like the fact that I learn many things in my job. All right, then you can go remember you're talking about what you like. My job responsibilities. Now you could even start by, okay, say you want to talk about two things. All right, oh, you don't have to. Okay, let's just continue on. Okay, my job responsibilities include taking care of patients and administering medicine to them. Okay, so you have some good words here, job responsibilities, and you have a good collocation. Remember we talked about collocation, which is important in both writing and speaking. To administer medicine, that's a good collocation. Okay, if you're not sure what collocation is, for those students who have not gone through my writing class, in my second writing class, you will you will learn what collocations are, right? And so job responsibilities, it's a good phrase, good word, right? However, I also have to do administrative work, and I'm in charge of various projects. Okay, so what this nurse is saying is, I like I like the fact that I learn many things in my job. My job responsibilities include taking care of patients, administering medicine. However, but I also, not just that, but okay, here you have this, you're using some cohesive devices which helps you, okay, which is good. However, because you're not only do I do that, I also do this. Okay, so however is like, that's not all. I also have to do administrative work, and I'm in charge of various projects. So I'm not just a normal nursing job taking care of patients and administering medicine, but I also have to do this. Okay, you could say I wear many hats. Now this is where we come to idiomatic vocabulary. Idiomatic vocabulary, or idioms, are basically phrases and words in combination which do not have, like when you talk about wear many hats, there's a meaning behind this phrase, this idiom, which is not literal. Okay, so does it mean that you go to work and you wear many hats? No, of course that's not. You're not talking about literally wearing many hats. All right, so this is an idiom that means that you have a lot of, you have a lot of roles. You do this, you do that. You don't just do one thing, but you do many things. So you wear many hats. At times you are taking care of patients, and after that you also have an administrative role of doing administrative work, and maybe maybe a project leader. You're also a project leader, and therefore you have this role of being a project leader. So you're wearing many hats. You could say I wear many hats, but I really enjoy all the things I've learned. Okay, so yeah, even though I do a lot of things, I really enjoy the things I've learned. Okay, so this is an idiom. Even though it can be tiring at times, I feel good about my work because it's extremely challenging. Okay, now here I'm using what you call a concession. Okay, I mean, we've used kind of like a few concessions already, but this, especially when you use even though, although, in spite of, despite, use differently. Okay, these, but you pretty much they like in spite of and despite is a preposition, even though and although you use it as a conjunction. But it's concession, which means there's this unexpected result. Okay, so you're saying even though it can be tiring at times, because when it's tiring at times, you expect a person not to like their job, but he or she says, I feel good about my work because it's extremely challenging. So that is a concession. And this is a good, I've taught you about concession. This is something good to use in your speaking. Remember, a lot of times we use various strategies in order to lengthen your speech. All right. And that is the thing. Try to lengthen your speech and become more fluent rather than hesitate and not having much to say. And a concession, even though, although, is always good in any part of your speaking, because you're able to say, it's a good conjunction. And remember, one aspect of your, they're also going to, your examiner is also going to evaluate the use of complex structures. Your use of complex structures comes under the grammar criteria. So this is a complex. In fact, this is very complex because you have, even though it's a conjunction, then you have because. All right. So you see how my sentences have and is conjunctions, conjunction, two conjunctions here. So it is not just a simple sentence, which is just like a clause, a simple like subject and a verb. It's has a conjunction. It's a long sentence. It's a complex sentence. All right. Having said that, because most actually, I would want to talk about something negative right now, because it's really this is talking about what do you like about your work or studies. Okay, I think the question, what do you dislike? Okay, so so this is a good answer. It doesn't have to be that long, but as you can see, I have some good vocabulary. I have good collocation. I have some good cohesive devices, an idiom, concession, which is it comes to play in terms of your coherence and your vocabulary. Okay. In your grammar, the complexity of your sentence. Okay, let's go to the next one. What do you dislike about one thing I mentioned here? I just want to write it down. Don't say I like that. If you want to use a clause, which means a subject and a verb after that, you use I like the fact that plus clause. Okay. Again, what is a clause? Something that I'll teach you in writing the second writing class. Okay. This is wrong. Let me see if I can. Is there something that can cancel it? Yeah. Okay, this is wrong. All right. Okay, let's go to the next one. What do you dislike about your work studies? So okay, you can say something like, let's put this here. I can't stand some of my colleagues. I get along well with most of my workmates. Rather than saying colleagues, I say workmates. But there are a few who avoid their job responsibilities. I also hate the fact that I need to do shift work. Working overnight and returning home at 8 a.m. screws up my bio clock big time. Okay, now, so these are things that you don't really like. All right. did I talk about? Yeah, it also is also, this also helps in your cohesion, okay? Now, let's take a look at this answer. I can't stand, rather than saying I dislike, you use I can't stand. Okay, try to use synonyms or paraphrases. Then get along well, or you can say get on well. This is an idiom. All right. So this is a synonym, paraphrase, or rephrase of it. This is an idiom. It means you have a good relationship. Right? Then you have the but, which is a conjunction. These are very basic conjunctions to make your sentence a bit more complex. I also, another cohesive device. Also, basically you are talking about the second point, and an additional point also gives an additional point. Hate the fact. Okay, remember, just like just now above, we don't say I like that. You don't say I hate that, but I hate the fact that I need to do shift work. Okay, shift work is good. Shift work is probably could be an uncommon vocabulary, like a phrase that is very relevant to work. Working overnight, returning home at screws. Okay, to screw up means to mess up. Okay, another idiom. Okay, because literally you're not talking about screw, using a screw or whatever. Okay, so it's good. Okay, it's an idiom. Bioclock, probably it's a good uncommon vocabulary. And big time, it's kind of like very informal, idiomatic kind of language. Okay, probably it's an idiom. Okay, whatever it is, it's however you want to define these words. These are what examiners looking out for is for slightly less common kind of language that people every day use. Okay, so when you use, not everybody will use words like screw up, bioclock, big time. These are words that the examiner will take note of. All right. What else can we say? I can't stand. Even if you want to, make this a bit more. You could even start with. There are several things that get to me about my work. Now, what is get to? Okay, we can put this here, get to. Get to is an idiom, means it kind of annoys me. Okay, which means, again, is another synonym paraphrase of rather than dislike. Okay, then you can say, firstly, I can't stand some of my colleagues. I get on well with most of my workmates, but there are few who avoid their job responsibilities. I also, which is the also signifying an additional point. You want to say secondly, I hate the fact, that's also fine. All right, I need to do shift work. Then maybe you can say lastly, I work long hours. I'm always on the go. On the go means busy. Therefore, I don't think I have much work-life balance. Okay, so you have 3 points. And lastly, I work long hours. I'm always on the go. It's idiomatic, meaning busy. Therefore, I don't have much work-life balance. It's a good uncommon vocabulary. I think, of course, you guys should know what work-life balance means. It means that you don't work all the time. You have time to enjoy yourself, relax, and spend time with your friends and family, etc. But this is a nice buzzword that many of us, many people talk about nowadays. Whether it's realistic or whether people actually have work-life balance, that's a different story. Okay, so but anyway, this is a good uncommon vocabulary. When we go through all this, okay, you take a note of some of these words, okay, be it idioms, uncommon vocabulary, or whatever it may be, and use them in your speaking. Prepare them, write them down. Okay, so this is just 3 questions in related to work or studies. Let's continue on with hometown. Where did you grow up? You can say I grew up. Past simple tense, okay? I grew up. Now, when they ask you where did you grow up, it's probably your early years, okay? So it's no longer, you're not growing up right now, all right? I grew up in Philippines, in a city called Batangas City. I know this place because a friend of mine is from there. It's a city of about 300,000 people. I found this out in Wikipedia. So, if they ask you a question, where did you grow up, or where's your hometown, or whatever it may be, you can always talk about your city. Of course, give the name. You could talk about how many people there are there, which part of the country it's in. Okay, I'm not sure where Batangas City. I think it's in the central, but I'm not really sure. So if it's in the central, you could say it's a city of about 300,000 people, and it's located in the center of Philippines. You can say I lived there for the first 23 years of my life, and then I came to Singapore in 2009. Okay, now nothing special about these 3 or 4 sentences. Okay, unlike say all this, I've given you all a lot of idioms, etc. I mean, the only thing special here is, a very basic N. It's no big deal. But one point, you just need to take note of is you don't have to have every single sentence or every single answer of yours does not have to have a lot of idioms or whatever it may be. This is kind of unusual, okay, because they have so many. They have a few idioms here and there, and all that. But you don't have to have it. Make your answers like that. The exam, it's going to be very unnatural if all your answers are like this. Okay, the examiners will take note of all of these idioms, these uncommon vocabulary, but then you also you don't have to have too many of them. Okay, 5, 6, 7 throughout your speaking exam, or the 11 to 15 minutes of that. It's good enough that the examiner will take note of it. That's good. Okay, you don't have to have so many, right? So what do you like best about your hometown? The thing I like best is that my family and friends are all there. So whenever I return to my city, I always enjoy meeting up with my friends and catching up with them. Okay, catching up, what is to catch up? That's an idiom. Catch up with someone's to to update a person about your life. Furthermore, I have another linking word cohesive device here to let you know that, hey, I'm going to talk about my second point, an additional point. Furthermore, because I have a love of nature, I'm always thrilled. Again, not just saying you like, but I'm thrilled. Okay, good synonym there. To visit the beaches, the lakes, and the forests. Okay. Now, if you want to, rather than just saying beaches, lakes, and forests, you could actually, use adjectives. Beautiful beaches, lovely lakes, and the tropical forests. If you're not sure how to find all these adjectives, as I taught some of you already in my writing 2 class about collocations, again, this word is here again, collocations. Okay, so for those of you who have not gone through my writing class, hopefully you understand you will take note of this word collocation. So when I teach you what a collocation is and how to find a collocation, you'll pay attention. Okay, but here as I'm going to teach you in your writing 2 class, you can use this OSDIC. So this dictionary called OSDIC, which is a collocation dictionary. It's not a normal dictionary, but say beach. What adjective can you use? Beautiful. Okay. Lake. Lovely. Forest. You could use dense or thick or tropical. The tropical is not here, right? But you know, these are tropical is here. Okay. Right. So that's how you come up with adjectives to make it a bit more complex, to make it a bit more it may impress your examiner. Okay. Furthermore, the busyness of city life really gets to me sometimes. Okay, we've done gets to me, right? Get to is kind of like really annoys you, so you're using it again. Okay, and it's really refreshing to be away from the hustle and bustle of the city life in Singapore. Okay, so hustle and bustle again. Well, you can get to hustle and bustle. All right, so yeah, these are some idiomatic words that you've used. Let's go to accommodation. Where do you live in Singapore? I live in a condominium or HDB flat in Singapore. I rent a room and share it with a close friend. It's located in Outram, which is in the center of Singapore. Okay, nothing fantastic, no idiomatic words here. That's fine. Again, as I mentioned, not every single sentence or answer needs that. All right. What do you like best about living there? Okay, you can start with there are several things. Firstly, my unit is located on the 30th floor, so when I look out of my window, I get a stunning bird's eye view of the city. Okay, so you have a nice adjective, stunning bird's eye view. That's kind of like an idiom of the city. Secondly, it's extremely convenient. It's only 5 minutes walk from the MRT station. There are also many coffee shops and supermarkets around. Okay, that's pretty much it. Okay, not very basic kind of response, nothing fantastic again, and the only thing is a bird's eye view. Okay, so you don't always have to look out for a lot of idioms and uncommon words, but sometimes you can. And remember, a lot of this can be fake. It doesn't have to be true. And therefore, whether I live in a, for example, if they ask you about where you live, whether I live in a condo or a house or whatever, I'm just going to say, oh, I live in a flat or condo and it's on the 30th floor because I get I have a stunning bird's eye view. You see, this may not be true. You may live in the first floor, second floor, third floor. You don't have a bird's eye view, but you are purposely inputting some of these good words and good vocabulary so that it will impress the examiner. All right. So just that's the reason why I say prepare and adapt, because don't tell the truth. Sometimes the truth may be boring. Sometimes you want to prepare something that is interesting and has all these good stuff in it, idioms, good uncommon vocabulary, so that you can use it when you answer. And it doesn't have to be true. The examiner doesn't know. Right? So this is how you can answer these part 1 questions. Of course, there are many other topics, but I'm just giving you an example here. I will move to part 2 and part 3 after this. But just remember, sometimes it can be boring. It may not have any special features, special language. That's fine. But still, if you have no idiomatic language, or if you have a few of these special words and your grammar is good, that's good, because you need to have your grammar at a level that where you don't make so many mistakes. Okay, so spend time thinking, crafting your response on paper first, and make sure your grammar is good, and pause, do some research. Let me talk about research. I talked to you about Ausdic Dictionary, but if you want to talk about idioms relating, you want to put some idioms related to work. Okay, just Google it, and you will come across. Not everybody uses idioms like that. Even for me, even though I know the idioms, I can't think of it offhand, and therefore I did my research before I, prepared some of these responses. Okay, I did prepare some of these responses. I didn't just come out, with all these 4 or 5 idioms in one response in one small little paragraph. No, I don't think many people. That's why I say it's not natural for someone to come out with all these idioms in just one response. It's not natural, and so you don't need to have so many. But I did my research, and that's what you can do too. Okay. Of course, you have to find idioms which you can really use. Find the more common ones. Okay. And something you can use in general. All right. Not all of this you can use. That's why you need to really go and look out for, understand the meaning and see whether you can use it. Okay, but I've given you some that you can use, and I've given you some also in the vocabulary in my notes. But that's what you need to do. Search for idioms and prepare them, write them out. Okay.